Hello there, Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. We're here on the Outliers Edge podcast, where we help authentic, high-performing, and impactful personal brands create their next 10K plus months. And today, we have with us an awesome group of people who are coming together in a panel roundtable to talk about how they look at their world differently, how they're creating their business, their personal brands in a different way, and bringing together the ways that they are doing it through systems, automation, delegation, like how they bring themselves into their leadership and making sure that it continues to grow. You're in for a treat because we have brought together a really great group of outliers here today. And I'd like to give each of you a chance to start us off. Dr. Z, why don't you let us know about you? The way I'll say this is give us context, let us know about the game that you're playing and where we can find you, all right? And then we'll go on from there.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Z. I am a clinical psychologist that solely specializes working with transgender and non-binary adults. My audience are primarily adults who are questioning their gender identity or struggling with gender dysphoria. That's exclusively the space that I tend to find myself working in. You can find all of my information by simply putting in Dr. Z PhD, everything from my big YouTube channel to any social media and my website. It's all under the exact same name.
That's fantastic. I'm really glad that you're here, Dr. Z. There's some things that even just in the way that you introduce yourself, I'm like, oh, we have some good questions for you coming up here, right? All right, cool. Why don't we go to Saeed next here, and then after Saeed, we'll go to Ali. We'll do it in that order.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Saeed. My background is in politics, but our podcast, me and Ali, is focused on mental health and self-development. The purpose of it was basically to find new ways for us to educate ourselves and in the process, obviously, teach others what we are learning. And on our journey, we have learned quite a lot. So hopefully whoever's watching will also learn with us.
Fantastic. And I just want to make sure, like, what is the name of your podcast here?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention it's called A2 The Show.
A2 The Show. And Dr. Z, I know you gave us a way to go find you out there. Did you mention your podcast? I want to make sure that that's out here as well.
Yeah, my podcast is also Dr. Z PhD. Everything is Dr. Z PhD.
Oh, you got
very easy to follow.
You're immediately getting some personal branding, just like right now, right
yes,
here.
I make it very easy to find me. That's right.
Fantastic, yeah. Ali, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks for having us in this beautiful round circle. Really appreciative. My name is Ali. I do a podcast with Saeed called A2 The Show. And he already told you guys what it's about. So we got that out of the way. You can find out about it on a2theshow.com. And my personal website, alitheprofessor.com. And I will say, I like being an outlier, but I prefer maybe not being a liar.
All right, we'll hold you to the truth then. I like that, right? I like that. Cool. You got me thinking, by the way. I was like, what would an in-liar be, right? But but you went with the other part of it. I like that. All right, awesome. And Austin, round us out for today, please.
Yeah, my name is Austin Enoex. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, but I'm currently a student at the University of Southern California. My podcast is called Brother from Another Mother. And while it may sound vague, my audience is for anybody who is willing to listen. People who tend to listen are those who want to develop themselves in one way, shape, or form. The podcast was originally to teach myself how to step outside my comfort zone and have something to offer to the world when I start conversations. But now it's more so turning into me bringing the world to people who want to join me on my journey.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that because actually, I really appreciate each of you here because I think we're in different stages of business, different stages of the podcast. I think that like the responses we have are going to be able to hit different elements of outliers listening in here. Some of them have podcasts. Some of the outliers here have podcasts, so you can speak to some of those components, but a lot of them have businesses, and they're all trying to lead into a better world. right? And so I'm like that as we start off here. Let's go. I'm going to start off with you, Dr. Z. And this is actually a question for everyone, but I'm going to actually ask Dr. Z to answer it first because your introduction really like brought this into focus for me, right? You were really clear that you work exclusively with a group of people, right? I want to just like ask you about that process of like how you how you came to say like, hey, this is who I am going to be working with. And the part that really I love about it was like the ownership of it, right? It's like you were emphatic about it in the sense, right? Just like this is it, like this is who I work with. It is exclusive to this. So I'd love to if you can speak to that. And just to give you a little context, here's Outliers. We're multi-talented, multi-passionate. We can do so much. Our journeys are very, very different. And so to come and say like we do this one thing or we work exclusively with this one group can kind of like is a place to be run into a lot of contention. So I'd love to hear about your experience with it and some of your takes from there.
Yeah, sure. So actually, when I think about the word outlier, I do think about an individual that does something that's completely different. And in my particular field, which is mental health, for a psychologist to exclusively specialize in one area versus multi areas, right? How many of us went to a website of any mental health professionals and saw a list, an area of things that they tend to help with, right? But how seldom do you go to their website and you only see this one thing they're really, really good at? So from the get-go, I always wanted to be highly, highly specialized in just one area. And I consider that's in its own way, I guess, a rebel in my field. And essentially, initially, I majored in sexuality and then went on to look into gender studies. And it just felt right for me. It felt like it captured my interest. It captured my tendency to dive deeper into the conversation and into the topics. I'm also a rebel at heart. I like to fight for underdog. We all know the trans community is, especially right now, a very big underdog. And that's how I tended to specialize and focus on it. And I am very proud. I gotta say, I'm definitely an outlier in my field as a psychologist who only does this. And as a byproduct, I am very knowledgeable when it comes to gender dysphoria and very glad to be because it enables me to reach and help a lot of people with my content.
Thank you for that. Like we're gonna come in even deeper on that in just a bit. I'm curious for Saeed and Ali, like tell us about like how you came to like where you chose to focus. You said like Saeed, you said you have a background in politics, but like you're like with this podcast, we want to do it on mental health. Tell us more about how you chose who you wanted to focus and how you went about that process.
Yeah, thank you for the great question. So a lot of people tend to suffer from mental health and which causes a great struggle in their lives. I personally have struggled with it, and I also was diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm currently going through an assessment for autism. So combining those two really it changes the way you live your life. And the podcast has helped me a lot in learning new ways and health and adding healthy routines to my life that can basically make me function in a way that I am happy with myself and just accept the way I live. And in that sense, I want to teach those methods to our audience. Like whoever is struggling, they need to learn about these healthy routines, these healthy habits that can change your life and just allow you to achieve your greatest potential.
Now, here's the thing, Niiamah and friends. We got to realize that we did over 500 podcasts right now. We've been doing many podcasts for a long time now. And so we got bored of doing all the podcasts that we don't care about. So now we just focus on the things that we want to do. And so that's how we've built our niche and our specialty in the things we want to talk about. We've done the things, the boring things, and now we're doing the things that matter, the things we care about. And that's how we've come to build our brand pretty much just through repetition and repetition.
I love this. Awesome. We're going to come to you a bit on this question here. It might evolve, but you just brought up something there, Ali, that like like if you're not watching the video, I started dancing, my hands started moving. Dr. Z had a thumbs up, so he like his head was back. There was something in there that just like seemed to really resonate. You know, it seemed to really resonate with us here. I'm gonna call in the part that resonated with me. I'm gonna ask you all about like what stuck out to you around it. But one of the things I loved in what you just said was like you've done the work, you've done reps, you've done 500 plus episodes, and as a result, something emerged as like let's do it this way, right? I'd love to kind of see how have you all taken your experience and how that has evolved to so that you can get to where you are right now. Because I often find, and I think the reason I'm dancing is like I often find I walk into a room and people are like, "You need to know your niche right off the bat." I'm like, "Well, I haven't done anything." It's like, "Well, you can't do anything until you know who you're doing it for." And it's like, "Ugh, like how does this work? How do we find that balance in actually like learning and gaining experience and so on and so forth, such that we can get to the point where we're like, I'm bored with just doing it. If it's not lighting me up, I want to do this here." So I'll open this up. Like I'll open this up here. Does anyone have any thoughts or anything they want to contribute to that? Maybe Ali, you want to continue on with that thought? This is fascinating to me.
I'll take it. Being able to combine your experiences is that's what you're saying, like combining your experiences, being able to walk into a room and distinguish what you need to do and who you need to talk to.
Yeah, it's a continue with that thought. Where I'm at right here is that element of like like getting the experiences and then distilling down like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to talk to, and like actually going through the reps to
Yeah.
find that out, as opposed to like just kind of jumping in and saying, I'm arbitrarily choosing this avatar or something like that because that's what I'm
Okay,
supposed to
yeah.
do.
So for me, it's all about finding a bunch of things that I want to do and start just shooting my shot at each one of them. And once I land on something, I take it and grab it and hold on to it. So before starting the podcast, it was very vague. I didn't know what I wanted to do, who I wanted to talk to, until I, got my first guest. And then I was like, okay, I liked how the story developed. We started out as a conversation and it felt genuine. It wasn't set up. I didn't have to script anything. I liked how that worked. I took that and ran with it and sort of had to keep stepping outside of my comfort zone to keep finding more people. And what you want to do is after you get these experiences, you got to remember them. And I know memory can be hard for some people, but you want to be able to take what you learned and intertwine it with your everyday life so you can utilize what you just learned on a podcast or what you just learned through a conversation and help it boost you forward for your next episode or for your next person you meet or when you walk into a room and you just want to talk to people. I can be able to sit down and reflect on an experience that I had sitting down with a complete stranger, building a conversation and coming out with a great episode in real life when I just want to get to know somebody new.
That's awesome. Thank you, Austin. I'll keep the mics open. I'll go off for a little bit here. I want to just get all of your takes on this because I think there's something here. Why don't we go with you, Dr. Z? Why don't you take us over?
Yeah, so what I love about that comment is that I think for a lot of business owners, when you get into business, I think some people initially know exactly what they want to do. And I think a lot of people are trying to still find themselves. They know they're in the field they like and love. And so it's almost like a distillation process, right? So you do things out there and you keep doing some things out there. And then eventually you get to the point when you realize, wait a second, out of everything I've done, this is my strengths, this is my weakness, this is what I'm really good at. And then you get to this one particular thing or maybe two particular things. And essentially, hopefully, that's the thing that you're going to be really excited about waking up and doing, right? Just like you were saying, Ali, is that you decided, you know what, we got to do what we love to do. We got to do what interests us, what kind of gets us going. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And I think that's a part of it too, is to bypass as a business owner through those feelings of not knowing until you arrive at a point of knowing.
Yeah. I think I'm just gonna add just one point, which Ali kind of mentioned in the beginning. Basically, if you don't get bored of it, just keep doing it, and that's probably what your niche is. That's the summary for me.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then
Austin, yeah, go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed is that when some people like go into something too hard-headed, already knowing what they want to do, they sort of tunnel vision themselves and block themselves off from potential opportunities to either get better or step into a field that they would love more.
Mm. Ali, like you kickstarted this part of the conversation. Is there anything else that you want to say related to this? Yeah.
Let's talk about it because everyone has their reasons for doing what they want to do. right? And so a lot of people are focused too much on the end goal or seeing what's around them right now, what's popular, what's the trend right now, and they try to imitate the trend. And I guess that's fine for a lot of people, but then I think you're just becoming a copier and chasing a trend, as opposed to what we've been doing is building our own thing. We've taken a more Eastern philosophy, just really just working on our own thing, getting better each podcast, each session, getting better a little bit at a time. And now we've built our own thing that's completely unique, that's completely ours, that no one can take away from us. No one can replicate what we're doing because we're doing it in our own way. And that is the power of repetition and consistency. Also, following your own gut. And we've built something that represents us. We've developed ourselves and our brand simultaneously.
Oh, this is I appreciate you all going. It's almost as though you all are talking to me right now, because I'm in the space of wrestling, right? In the last few months, years, let's say years, right? Like last year and a half, really been trying to bring down a component of moving from trying to take on everything and trying to see like what would work. Maybe I'll do a podcast. Maybe I'll try a master class. Oh, you know what? I can go do like a small group. I can like, and thousands of different ideas, to coming out and realizing like, hey, wait, everything works. Literally everything works. Like, it just, but will you work it? You know, and Ali, you just brought up like doing the same thing, repetition and consistency. I want to ask you all here as you go in, how do you, there's two components of this. The first one is kind of like the surface level one, which I think is a little bit easier, which is like, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep yourself like going when it comes to it? I think they all kind of boil down to that, especially when you're like, hey, I can, there's so many different things I can do. So how do you keep it fresh? And I think there's an element of like that repetition, consistency. When you were saying, Ali, what was coming to mind was like, honestly, like a part of me like shrunk, because I'm like, I don't want to be consistent. I want to do random things. I want to keep growing and such. But it was really cool how you're like, actually, that was the actual path to it. And I believe there was like some kind of learning that was going on. So it almost like felt like iterating on something and getting that better, as opposed to just doing a whole bunch of different things. So I'm going to open up the conversation again here. Saeed, I'm being drawn to you right now. If there's anything you want to say related to that, and then let's see where you all take it. Is it clear, the question that's on the table?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's good that you're like, I know why you're drawn to it, because I actually do have a response to it, and this is actually something that me and Ali have been. So this is the benefit of working as a pair. We are always being able to like throw ideas at each other and like brainstorm together, which, instead of working by yourself and having just, an echo chamber of ideas in your head, you're able to share it with a partner. And this also allows us to do a bit of a type of role playing when we're doing the podcast. So something that we like to do sometimes with certain guests, depending on the theme and topic, is good cop, bad cop, and we take turns at it. So this sometimes can add a bit of a certain dynamic, which makes it, it changes the way the podcast or the episode is going compared to how we usually do it. And that allows us to, just keep it fresh for us so that we don't get bored all the time. Because if you're just doing the same thing, consistency is good. It keeps thing going. But at the same time, you want to make it fun, because if it's not fun, then you're just sharing education with people the same way as academia does. And that's completely not what we're here for. Podcast is providing education, but at least making it entertaining as well. That's my personal take.
For that there. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me, there's two things primarily that helps me keep things fresh, because I'm in a mental health space and my space is educational space, right? So everything I do is aims to educate, motivate, inspire, empower. And so for me, one of the things that keeps it fresh is connecting to the community. So that means for me, engaging in the comment section, engaging with the people, constantly having the conversation going. What people throw at me lets me know what the pulse, right? What's the pulse of my community? What are their concerns? What are they worried about? What bothers them the most? So that's one of the ways I keep things fresh. The other way that I keep things fresh is following fear. For me, what are the things that I think about that I want to do within my space? What are the topics I want to talk about? What are the conversations I want to have? And yet I'm afraid. And if it is the fears that one of those fears that we all often feel in business, where we're excited, we want to do it, but at the same time, we fear the consequences, right? What if I'm going to get criticism, or what if something is going to happen, especially in my particular space, which is so, so particular right now. That's what I do. If I'm afraid, but I really want to do it, that's a nudge that's exactly the direction I need to be moving forward. So those are the two things that help me keep it fresh.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed, like how you said, like falling into that fear, it's sort of when you are stepping into something that's going to change you as a person or give you a new skill, the body sort of feels a certain resistance towards it just because it's used to being comfortable. It wants to be comfortable. Us as human beings want to be where we are. We get a little groove. We want to stay in it, stay in that little neutral zone. And when we want to propel ourselves forward, it's not working against us, but it feels like if we change, we're threatened, and the brain is, trained to protect you from being threatened. So when you feel that resistance, like you were saying, just use it as a boost. One way I like to stay fresh is I get lucky because I'm on a campus with like thousands and thousands of people, which bring thousands and thousands of opportunity. And if I meet one person, I'll automatically meet whoever's network is within that person. So me being able to walk around and sort of stay outside of my comfort zone or stay falling into that resistance, I'm forced to at least have one new conversation a week, even if it's not a day, one new conversation a week that could sort of propel me forward with my classes, understanding, okay, what can my professor offer towards my podcast? This shouldn't just be a class that I learn something and I utilize what I learned and give it to the world. Why don't I just bring them on so they can, talk about it themselves and then further use whatever they taught in that episode to help me propel forward in the next episode. So it's all about being able to stack your building blocks and see how can you connect the dots? How can you connect the pieces? It's a big puzzle. How can I make a nice picture?
Austin, get Ali.
Sorry, Austin, you're a brother from another mother. Seriously.
Nicely done. I see what you did there.
I like how you're handling yourself, Austin. You just gotta not be scared. You just gotta break your fear and just do it. And meeting people, connecting with people. It used to be scary for me. I used to get really shy when I was a kid. I used to turn red sideways in my school. He'll tell you. I used to turn into tomato. But I know just through actually the process of doing this podcast, I've become a lot less shy, a lot more able to connect with people. And, despite everything, all the challenges that may come, you just keep going with the flow. There's a heat wave right now. It's over 100 degrees, awesome. But you're still here. You're cooking right here, while it's cooking outside. So look at you. That's the kind of energy I like to channel.
Talk about challenge and energy. Like, did I just say I'm having fun with y'all? Thank y'all for bringing it. Thank you for bringing it in here. We're all just getting to know each other, outliers. Like we're all coming into space here, but like part of the reason why we went down with this podcast, the panel routes, because like there's good people out there who just may not even know each other. So I'm glad we're all in this space. I'm gonna call that in real time. Like I'm happy we're doing this. Austin, you said something that was going through my mind here, where I'm like thinking about like all the places that I would have let myself not step out of the comfort zone, or I would have given myself an excuse as it goes on here, because there's these small things. With Outliers, we don't need to tell you what to do. If you want to know what to do, go Google it. You can find out how to launch a podcast. How do I make you can do all those things. The information is out there. So while we're in this conversation, we want to start playing with what's going on in your nervous system, what's going on in your head that's keeping you from just executing on what it is that's really real for you. And also, you said you're like, I'm really lucky. I like luck, by the way. I think luck is a really great thing. Like, I'm really lucky. I'm on a campus, and so I can go out and do this. And when you said that, I'm like, well, I'm really lucky. I'm in a city. And someone else is in a town, and someone else has a company, and someone else has a family, like we all have people. What I really heard is that you have opportunity. You were saying this when it came to your school, to your professor. You're like, I'm in a class. I'm really lucky. I'm in a class. So there's someone here with knowledge, and I can use, like, we can utilize that and play with it. So Outliers, I want to bring that into to perspective. The luck that Austin, I feel you have is not like only granted to you, is the luck that you are creating. And I really want to just like, I want to acknowledge that, and Outliers, like, put that out there for you around like where in your life right now can you just like step out of your comfort zone and go create your luck. Panelists, let's bring in something here. Let's talk about a time where you got lucky, but you actually went about and actually created it for yourself in some way, or maybe in retrospect you saw it.
Yeah.
One way or the other. Yeah, awesome. Why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah, for me, it was when I first started the podcast. I started on my iPad. It was like I had the voice memos open on my iPad, and I just went for it. And I feel like that initial kick led me to want to figure out how I can develop more and more and more. So when I got to school, all I had was the iPad still. I'm still doing voice memos, but I didn't let that discourage me in terms of being embarrassed that, okay, I'm about to invite somebody to a room, pull out my iPad and hit voice memos and pray nobody walks by the room making noises, because I do not know how to edit. And yeah, sort of stepping in each week trying to figure out how I can get better and better. I eventually got to an interview where one of the guests ended up getting me a podcast room at the school. So I just went from an iPad to like some little microphones on the iPad to my computer to an entire podcast room that I could specifically use, because it's not even open to students. It's faculty only. And she sat there and sponsored me for the room, and now I have access to a room. But if I didn't, take that leap of faith, just being embarrassed with the iPad and still posting the episode and still being, grateful for what I can get, I wouldn't be able to get to the podcast studio. And now it's, how can I further develop this? Now I got the studio. How can I get some cameras in here? Now I got some cameras in here. How can I get a crew in here? You know what I'm saying? So it's all about, how can I move forward? How can I keep stepping?
Thanks for that, Austin. Let's keep this rolling. Dr. Z, you got something for us?
Yeah, for me, when I think about luck, I think about, and I read this somewhere, I won't be able to quote where I read it, that luck is preparation that meets opportunity. And I love that, because if I were to look back at my career and ask myself, where did I get lucky? I'd say for me, luck happened when I decided, just like you started podcast, I decided to put a lot of content on YouTube channel, right? And, it was like an iPhone, that's all you needed, but that's all you need really is iPhone. Sat down and just started to record. And in a way, a lot of us are not aware that we can create our own luck. For me, that was, preparation, everything you've been preparing for, meeting an opportunity was there. And I think that's one of the important things to remember too for business owners, is that you can sit on a lines and wait for that luck to happen, or you can go out there and create the combination that breeds luck and brings it to you.
There's a cool theme that's coming here. And Saeed Ali, I'm going to come to you in just a bit, but I want to call in this element of like, it wasn't fancy when you started at all, but like you started with what you had, and you started and you got in. And I think that like Outliers, if you're out there wondering and you're like, I got to learn all the tech and I got to get all the gear and like all this stuff. Austin's like, I still don't know how to edit, like, but I got my episodes out there and it's continuing to build on what really matters here. So I want to put that in a bit into focus here. Let's keep expanding on this. Saeed Ali, anything that comes to mind for you on this?
Ali, do you want to go first?
Man, I was just thinking how lucky Austin is, to be honest. The whole time. I'm like, dude, this guy's a lucky guy.
Man. Completely agree.
I'm like, I could really use a podcast studio.
You got a podcast studio on the beautiful USC campus. I mean, you got the weather there, you got the beautiful life there, you got everything you need. It just, man, you're so lucky, Austin. Don't take it for granted.
Nope. It's all about understanding that when you have these things, like, I guess I can say, I don't know who's like religious. I'm not the most religious, but in essence, I'm blessed to be here. And for me to be complacent about that, that's where you get tripped up at. Some people get lucky and then they get complacent, and then that's when they lose it all. But it's understanding like, yes, I'm on this beautiful campus. How can I continue to utilize this and sort of give back to the opportunity that was given to me? Sometimes we get these opportunities and we hold on to them and don't share them because we feel like once we share it, it'll leave us. But the thing is, the more you share these opportunities, the more it comes back. The more you pour into the universe, the more it gives back to you. So yeah, being able to utilize the luck that I have and spread the wealth to everybody is something that I really love to do.
Yeah, of course. And isn't complacency the work of the devil?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Also, Austin, you can go to the LA Public Library. They have podcast studios there for free. And
All right,
then,
bet.
yeah, you can, if USC, for some reason, you're on summer break and you need to do it in LA, you got it. I feel lucky that for a lot of things, I feel lucky. I feel like my luckiest moments are still yet to come, but I feel very lucky and privileged and grateful to have this podcast, to have, Saeed, to have the team, to have our systems, to be having fun with everything, to be having a good life, to be enjoying, sunny USC campus. And it's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate you all here, and I love this element of the preparation that you have, the luck that comes in here, the opportunities that come in, whether you make that opportunity yourself. And I think about this here, and Dr. Z, like we call you doctor for a reason, right? You prepared in a lot of different ways for where you are before, like you hit the record button here, right? Let me ask you this here: in what ways have you? I want to look at it from both sides of this, but I want to talk about like being authentic in your brand, right? Being authentic in your message. In what ways have you like utilized authenticity and you found that it worked for you? And then what was a time where like you went against maybe your better judgment, when at least as it relates to you, like with what was authentic for you? And what were the, I'm gonna say consequences, being a neutral word that could be positive or negative, but what were the consequences of such decision?
That's a really great question. So authenticity, a lot of times I think we throw the word authenticity and we don't know what the heck we mean. For me, authenticity in my space is more about allowing myself to show up true to myself, right? So I think, Ali, you said it before earlier about doing what you really love doing, right? I think part of it is knowing who you are. For me, what was important from the get-go is to understand what I'm really good at. My strength is my throat chakra. So my strength is communicating. I'm also a very direct communicator. I kind of like, known as no BS type of person. I say it how it is. Some people really hate it. Some people really love it. And it took me a while to realize that that's my strength. That's my personality. I can't just be all soft and fluffy. It's just not me. And especially in the space I'm in, there are a lot of providers who kind of are cheerleaders, early cheerleading. And then there's a lot who are very extreme gatekeepers, right? So for me, it was very important to stay true to myself. And for me, it's this objective matter of fact, I say it how it is. You may not like what you hear, but and then you can decide to go somewhere else, I guess. So that's for me what it means to be authentic. It's essentially finding out what I'm genuinely good at, what makes me comfortable, and then showing up in that way, even though I may potentially make a lot of people uncomfortable. Because the reality is that we're not going to be for everybody, right? And the goal is not to be for everybody. How many people do you really need to have a successful business? How many people do you need to have a meaningful, fulfilling business? You don't need the whole planet to follow. You just need to have people who really resonate with what you're saying to kind of feed your soul. So that's for me what authentic is. Now, your second question was there a time when being authentic kind of backfired or nipped you in the ass?
I like that question. Let's go with it. Yeah.
I think that if you showing up as you occasionally doesn't end up having you being nitpicked and beaten and whatever it is in your ass or anywhere else in your body, you're not showing up really as you are. You can, but I don't think that it's to anybody's advantage to be a neutral party. People want to hear somebody that has an opinion. People want to hear what you believe in. People want to know more about you. People want to feel that energy. They want to feel that vibe. And when you show up as somebody who doesn't want to rock the boat because you're afraid to be yourself and you try to people please everybody, I think that's an end of the day that's boring. So if you're out there and you're getting your ass kicked on occasion, I think that's a good thing. I think that means that you're being true to yourself. And I think that you're finding your people and you're kind of letting people who don't belong to you go out and giving them opportunity to find their people.
Yeah. And another thing is when you are continuing to be yourself, being authentic, stepping into new spaces, sometimes these new spaces reveal to you your flaws. And that's nothing to get offended by or become defensive about. It's about realizing, okay, I was being true to myself, but this isn't going to always work. So how can I take this experience, reflect on it, and utilize it to build myself instead of going home discouraged, feeling like, oh, I can't be myself in this space. I'll just never go back. And yeah, that's keep it short and sweet.
This is getting me thinking here. Dr. G, you just talked about like if you're not getting your ass kicked like occasionally, then you're probably not being authentic. Alex, I'm bringing that back up here because I do love the counterintuitive. And what I got from that was most of the time we will spend a ton of energy trying to figure out how to avoid the problem. I don't want to run into issues. I just want to get it right the first time, so on and so forth. And in what you said there, it made me smile because you just changed the rules of the game. Like, and the rules of the game now is like, hey, like if you're not getting your ass kicked enough, like you're probably not moving up. You're not showing up as you. So, Outliers, I'm gonna put this to you right now. Like, think about the last time. When was the last time that you got your ass kicked? And if it hasn't been because of who you were showing up as, and if it hasn't been recently enough, what if you can make the rest of your day go by where you actively tried to make that happen? I love that game. Like the worst, like it's like, what if this happened? I'm like, I dare you to make it happen. Like, go ahead. Like, it's harder than you think to actually have someone actually respond in that way. So I really appreciate you all bringing this into the mix here. Saeed, Ali, anything else you want to add to that? Actually, if anyone, does anyone want to add anything to that?
I just have one thing to add. I love how Dr. Z says fluffy. That was like that was amazing. The way she says it is, I just love it. That's what I wanted to add.
Fluffy.
That one was for you.
The most recent time I got my ass kicked was I set up like this table to like sell snacks at the University of Southern California, not for any particular reason, just to see what it's like to be in the field of selling stuff. And you sort of realize how many people can ignore you. And that's sort of like it hit me, but I didn't get offended by it like I would have like years ago. But I was still able to actively see like, okay, this works for certain customers. If I'm just sitting here, nobody's gonna want to respond to you. I don't have a sign, so it's nothing to catch people's eyes. So it's sitting there just actively understanding what could be better about this situation while also taking that risk of being embarrassed, not making any sales, not making any type of money, and sort of having people blatantly disrespect you by just sitting there ignoring you or not even giving you the time of day. And it sort of puts you in a space to where I put myself in the shoes that the people are at when they actually table and stuff that they care about. You know what I'm saying? If I walk past without just giving them the eye or a wink or a smile or even just a no thank you, it makes them feel unseen, unheard, and less confident in themselves. And I didn't really like that feeling. So I'll take that and make sure next time I'm walking past the table, even if I don't have it to donate or I just don't want to donate, I'll give them a look to at least smile and acknowledge them so they could feel better within themselves to keep going. Because sometimes it don't take a sale for you to it does not take a sale for you to feel confident in yourself. It takes for somebody to see your work for you to be like, okay, it's actually working. It's hard to understand your own progress when it's just you. And I know everybody in here loves to be independent, you know what I'm saying? But we thrive on understanding if our work is actually working. And I know it can be not counterintuitive, but can be kind of daunting saying I'm dependent or not dependent, for lack of better words, dependent on what people think. But it's sort of, I just need a little bit of feedback so I know where to go. So even if I don't get 30 comments back, I could take one comment and stretch that. You know what I'm saying?
Austin, I love your level of self-awareness at your age. It's great. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
I think that's when you said like it hit you when you were doing the stand to sell the produce. That is an element. It's a skill, being aware of like noticing either the mistakes that are occurring or the rejection that is being given to you. And awareness is an important trait. It's an important skill to have, because if you're constantly making mistakes, but you're not aware of what you're doing wrong, then you're just going to end up doing the same thing over and over again. But having a certain level of awareness is what allows you to be able to learn from your mistakes and basically attain that progress that you're looking for. You know, you have to be paying attention to your surroundings, your environment, the interactions that you're having, and practicing that self-awareness, especially when you sit with yourself. And like, something that helps maybe is like journaling, you know, how you felt, what happened in those circumstances, what do you think went wrong, thinking of all the possibilities that have happened or could have happened. These are all things to take into account, because then you could go out there and then try it again and see what happens then.
We're coming up to the end, top of the hour here, so I'm gonna bring in one more question. Maybe we can take about 2 minutes with this, and then we'll wrap up all together. It lines in the world of learning, and you know, I like to, as much as we talked in the mindset, I also like to make sure that we have something like practical. And nowadays, when I look at it, a lot of people here are trying to bridge that gap between doing it on their own and growing in some ways, whether it's growing their audience, growing their business, growing their team, growing the way they show up as a leader and such. And what I want to ask here is actually, it's a bit of a meta question, but it's around like learning how to learn. Learning how to learn. And this is something that I'll admit, like I'm relearning right now. I had an economics background, and I'm now finally starting to like track my data, you know, and see like, okay, what percentage of people are actually taking the actions that I want, and what can I do to move things forward? So if you don't mind, Dr. J, I feel like I want to start with you. Like if you can tell us about like, what's something that you do that's actually a system to help you learn, and how do you like determine like what you're learning or not? Because it clearly you've been doing things that have been working for you. I'll be curious about that.
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to any kind of learning, you have to be open to it. I think in businesses, it's very easy to let your ego explode like a balloon, right? To think that you're doing everything right. You become very blindsided. You can very quickly become in your own echo chamber, thinking that what you're saying is so amazing. So I think part of it is being open to just learning what are you doing wrong. For me, it's again having pulse on my community, right? So they will tell me that the minute I get something off, they're very vocal. They will let me know you got this wrong. And it's a great thing because they also keep me in check, which is amazing to have that. But I think part of it is also constantly being on top of what is happening, right? So especially as technology is growing, as things are evolving, there's so many things on the horizon, so many new opportunities on the horizon. You have to be able to be proactive to step into those. There's constantly new platform, right? I mean, if you're just starting out right now and you're starting out with, for example, Instagram or your social platform, you got to learn how at least to navigate the basics of it. Fortunately, we live in a world where that's easy. You go to Google, you're probably going to find gazillion YouTubers who are going to teach you everything about it. So I think you just have to just constantly push yourself. And the minute you get, we use that word already today, complacent, content, too comfortable, you got to realize that's an indication that you got to stand up, you got to ruffle your feathers, and you got to do something new. So that's kind of how I keep it going. But the community, I got to say, is my biggest, you know, there's the ones who, they're the ones who tell me like, Dr. Z, I don't think this is it. So yeah.
I love that. Like it's so fun talking to you because it's like the things that most people are trying to avoid. Like, I don't want to get it wrong. You're like, I get it wrong. I was out there, and then I have a mechanism out there that gives me very quick feedback that says, not that way. Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I say is that what's helping me learn to learn is understanding that there's people behind me that are not sort of, I don't even want to use it as pressure, like they're looking for me to be better, but it's people behind me that not expect, but do expect me to have something in store anytime I post something. So it's like, how can I become a better learner, one for myself and for the people that's looking towards me? So I sort of like to use that pressure that builds diamonds and utilize it instead of being afraid of it and hiding away in the shadow or in the cocoon.
Love it. Love it. Ollie, how about you? You brought up 500 episodes, so I'm curious about like how like that process too.
Okay. Life can get so repetitive, and we do 500 episodes, and that gets repetitive. The only thing that keeps it fresh is doing new things and learning new things. That's the only thing that keeps it time slow, getting you in the flow state, doing something, and once you learn how to learn, you see all the steps. Like, you are going to fail in the beginning. It's going to be a struggle. You don't know what you're doing. However, if you set expectations high enough, you set goals, habits, routines, and you stick with it, there is no chance but for you to succeed if you do it in a systematic way. That's why the meta learning of learning is so important.
I'm glad you brought it. You may not see this, but it's like my brain is moving when you're like, oh yeah, the system of learning how to learn. I often talk about like unconscious incompetence all the way forward through it. And you're gonna fail. Like, and so outliers, I'll put it out there. If like there's some for me, there's this element of like if you're trying to avoid failing, you're actually avoiding learning. If you're trying to avoid failing, you're actually avoiding learning. And that right there is going to keep you exactly where you are.
Yeah,
Plain and
tension
simple.
and discomfort is your best friend. It's in a space of tension and discomfort that, it's like taking the two things that now no longer work in the creating tension. Out of that, a third is going to be born. You want to be in the space because you want to witness the birth of the third, which is again new opportunity, new way of thinking, new way of shifting your paradigms. So you feel tension, discomfort, lean into it.
That's fantastic. Well, we're gonna wrap up today, and I want to make sure that we do the following. If you can each remind, I'm gonna go on to each of you here with this question. If you can remind yourself if you can share with us again where we can follow your podcast or follow you, like where the best way for us to continue down your path with you is, please let us know. And then my ask is, what is one insight that you personally got from this conversation? And if you didn't get anything from this conversation, you can say nothing. That's totally fine too. But we'll wrap up with that and close for today on that. So we'll go with Dr. Z, then we'll go to Saeed, then Austin, then Ali, and I'll bring it back in. But Dr. Z, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, all of my things are Dr. Z PhD, Dr. Z PhD everywhere. Very easy to remember. What I got out of this conversation, I think when you are a business owner, especially when you are solo entrepreneur, right? When you are working by yourself, it's very easy to get disconnected and alienated. And it's really great to see other people who are out there doing things that they're passionate about, doing things that they're really excited about, changing the ways people think, changing the way people behave. That's my biggest takeaway, is that sometimes I personally forget, and it gets very lonely. And so seeing other people who are doing amazing things and who have been there and can continue to be there, to me, it's very uplifting. So thank you for having me there and giving me that experience of that. It's really great.
Thank you for being here. Saeed.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Could you
Let
remind
us
me
know
of
how
the
we
first
can continue
question?
down the journey with you, and then also
Yeah.
just what is your biggest insight for that?
Yes. So you guys can find us on A2 The Show. I'm just going to stick with A2 The Show. That's our Instagram handle, our website, our YouTube channel. All of the links are that. Ali will repeat them as well so that you guys don't forget them. From what I took from this podcast was I really enjoy having these conversations with other people in the same field as us. We haven't done this before, and thank you, Niiamah, for introducing us to this. It's a great way to interact with people, brainstorm ideas, and yeah, I enjoyed this session. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Honestly, thank you all. Austin, how about you?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is like extremely easy to find. It's just my name, Austin Enoex. My podcast Instagram handle is Bro We Talking. My podcast is Brother from Another Mother, and those are the three that I give. One thing that I pulled from this conversation is that if you already know how to do something, or if you're not stepping outside your comfort zone, you already know how to do something, what are you doing it for? You know what I'm saying? Go do something that you are extremely scared to do and resistant towards. And like Dr. Z said, tension and discomfort is your best friend.
Thank you for that. And Ali, why don't you bring us on home?
All right. Thank you so much, Niiamah, for having us in this beautiful round table, virtual, amazing. Austin, you're a brother from another mother. Dr. Z, you're a brother slash sister from a mother slash father. And what I've learned today is to provide, more than asking for things, you want to give things. That's what this conversation made me think of. And I'm not a liar, I'm an outlier.
Yeah. Well, I truly appreciate all of you all. What y'all don't know is this is me stepping out of the comfort zone. I haven't done a panel like this in over a year, and like I'm going all in. So this is my first time doing this, y'all. Like, and I was like, do I say it beforehand? I'm like, no, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna go with it. And I want to make sure I say it out loud so it is documented because people will come in and see 500 episodes of panels and other things, and they won't realize like it started somewhere. So thank you all for being who you are. Thank you for playing this game, and honestly, just keep going out and growing them. Outliers, keep following them. We're all inside of the Outliers Edge Guild, which is our free community. So if you want to continue the conversation with some there, we're also there as well. All right. Be well. And until later on, journey on.